Hey Dragon Slayers, today's video asks the question, does obesity cause insulin resistance or does insulin resistance cause obesity? Like every exciting relationship, the connection between insulin resistance and obesity is complicated. It's like a chicken and egg question of which happened first. That obesity and insulin resistance tend to occur together has been observed for roughly a century. There is no doubt that excess body fat is related to insulin resistance. Most overweight or obese individuals are insulin resistant, around 70% or more. And because insulin resistance is so commonly associated with excess body fat, plenty of scientists have tried to figure out why. But we only started looking at obesity and insulin resistance in a causal relationship within the last 30 years or so. Many of these researchers concluded that obesity drives insulin resistance. Indeed, this is the predominant perspective. The term obesity-induced insulin resistance comes up often in this area of research. An internet search for this term yields thousands of hits on search engines for biomedical data. Many of these studies report that insulin sensitivity improves because of weight loss. But, as I suggested in the past, it's not that simple. In looking at the data from these same studies, it is just as viable to conclude that weight loss occurred because of improved insulin sensitivity, not the other way around. And indeed, some of these studies do acknowledge this fact as a possibility that insulin resistance may come before the subject's weight gain, or insulin sensitivity may precede their weight loss. In one instance, scientists measured several variables in a group of children and then followed them for up to 10 years later. Even if kids weighed the same or grew the same amount, those with the highest insulin levels were the most likely to gain the most weight. In fact, in a similar study, though their body weight was similar at the beginning, children with the highest insulin levels were 36 times more likely to become obese as adults. However, the data becomes murky when we look at adults. But one interesting study sheds some light. By following adults over several years, scientists in Boston found that when insulin was lower, body weight gain was slower. When insulin was higher, body weight gain was higher. However, as adults gain ever more weight and weight reaches a limit, insulin loses its predictive power. This limit for weight gain is known as the personal fat threshold, and it presents a sort of cold war between our fat tissue and insulin resistance. We'll revisit this concept in a later video. Although the evidence that high blood insulin precedes obesity and thus could be causal is robust, this perspective is not without debate. For more on this subject, Dr. Beekman recommends reading Gary Taubes' Good Calories, Bad Calories, Jason Fung's The Obesity Code, Dr. David Lugwood's book Always Hungry, and Dr. Stephen Guyenet's book The Hungry Brain. So if you guys have been following the channel for a while, you know I covered the entire PE diet by Dr. Ted Naiman, where he brings up the personal fat threshold. I had never heard of this concept before, but it makes a lot of sense. It's the idea that basically, as you get fatter, you become more and more insulin resistant. And everyone has a maximum amount of fat that they can reach before it spills over into your blood. So I did a whole video on the personal fat threshold. You guys can check it out. But we're going to continue this series with why we get sick and understanding how insulin resistance plays a role into almost every function of the human body. That's what I've got for you guys today. Don't forget to like and subscribe because it really helps the channel out. And remember, guys, that together, you and I will slay the dreaded diabetes dragon.